We can work backwards to plan when we do our training sessions to kind of fit this high-low model. And we know what to do in each training session to maintain those training residuals. See how it all comes together? Good in-season training is the key to staying healthy, performing at a high level, and maximizing a good chunk of the training year, 3 to 4 months at a time, not wasting and getting rid of all of the gains that you built all off and preseason. And as a former Power 4 strength and conditioning coach dealing with a crazy in-season college baseball schedule, personally, I liked in-season training a lot more than off-season because it was way more concise, efficient, effective, and we all knew why we were there. All of the fluff was cut out because we were there just to do high-level training. So here are my 3 biggest tips for maximizing and crushing your in-season training, and let's get into it. So everything I just said, basically why this is important to have a super effective in-season training, stay healthy, perform at a high level, maintain or even make gains in season. And it is not that hard. It just takes a little bit of planning, understanding these concepts and foundations, and just executing week in and week out. So last kind of background slide before we get into tip 1 is just this pyramid of biomotor qualities of how basically strength, that's the main one, is going to be the foundation of staying healthy, but also the foundation of power and speed, aka performance. So training residuals, fancy word. Everyone has seen this chart before probably, but basically how long will a gain last when you stop giving the athlete the stimulus for that gain? Or basically how long until you use it or lose it? So speed, sprinting as fast as possible, basically once a week, 5 days plus or minus 3 days, you have to hit something that is all out as fast as possible. And second, strength. So basically once every 4 weeks, once a month, 30 days plus or minus 5 days. You have to hit something near max strength at least once a month to keep those gains. Speed, I just do in my warm-ups because your athletes are going to warm up anyways, and you're going to end your warm-up with something kind of all out and explosive. So why not kill 2 birds with 1 stone by being intentional, right? By planning and saying that you're going to hit certain speed qualities on certain days throughout the week. Or if it is just a separate training session itself, you can hit your all-out, high-quality, fast sprints in just a 30-minute training session. And strength, once a month. Basically, every week 3 and week 4 of our 4-week phases or our month-long phases, I plan for our heavy lifts to happen. First, because it gives us a little buffer, so putting it in the program for kind of 2 weeks at a time, where if week 3, let's say, has a lot of travel and just a lot of games and things like that, and we don't get to it, then we have that extra week built in. And second, not to go 0 to 100 ever, right? Just because it is every 30 days for strength, it's not like you don't touch a barbell for those 30 days, right? And it's not like you sprint on a Sunday, you sit on the couch until the next Sunday, and then you sprint all out again. So being always sprinting-ish, being always lifting something heavy-ish, every 3 weeks instead of every 4, just to have that buffer, is how you keep training residuals in the back of your mind, in the front of your programs to keep your athletes strong and fast. And next, number 2 is a high-low training model. And another fancy word you've probably heard of before, but basically it just means keep your hard days hard and your easy days easy. And first, I'll go into a visual representation. So this is what a good high-low training model is, where you have your high days, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday in this visual, and then your low days, the amount of training load is low on Tuesdays and Thursdays, versus what most athletes, coaches, teams usually do. Imagine if all of these bars for the 5 days, the amount of training load was kind of all medium high or kind of all the same. Where, you have practice every day, so it's a decent amount of load, and they're like, oh, cool, let's lift Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And it's like, oh, cool, we're not doing anything extra on Tuesday, Thursday, so let's put our conditioning on those days. So then every day is kind of medium hard to where, and I guess that's the point of a high-low model, is there's no recovery in the week itself. So the point of consolidating stress, putting stressful things together, is when it's your time to tax the body, when it's your time to give stress to the athlete, do it. But when it's your time to kind of bounce back, feel good and have a little bit of recovery, bounce back from a high day by giving a low day, then do that, because that gives little spurts of recovery within the week itself. So that's in general a high-low training model, the concept and why that's important and the value it brings. And that will lead us into point 3, which is working backwards. So if we know when our games are, which that's the important thing and priority of being in season, obviously that's why you train the whole off season. So if we know when our games are, we can work backwards to plan when we do our training sessions to kind of fit this high-low model. And we know what to do in each training session to maintain those training residuals. See how it all comes together? So we can work backwards to know when each session will happen and what to do in each session. And then I have an example. So in working backwards, let's say we have games on Tuesday, Friday, Saturday. Probably pretty standard, right? Big weekend games, one kind of midweek. So if there's like 4 things that you're going to do in a training week, let's say 2 lifts, a speed session, and then like an active recovery session. Well, we can work backwards or forwards within that week, I guess, and say at the end of the training week, that is when I'm going to get my second lift in on that Saturday. So that's going to be a high day. And then we have all day Sunday to kind of bounce back. Cool, that's one of the lifts, right? I know that the speed stuff, the super high quality stuff, I want at the beginning of the week. So that's going to be on Monday. And then Tuesday is going to be just like a high day with a game. Wednesday is a lift. Thursday to kind of bridge the gap between the first half of the week and then the second half of the week. Thursday is going to be our kind of active recovery day. So cool. You just organize your whole training week by knowing when the games are, knowing what you want at the beginning of the week, and knowing what you want at the end of the week, and then just bringing everything together. So then, even within those training sessions, basically the 2 lifts, you can plan what you're doing on each by, again, knowing the things that you want or should prioritize for the end of the week, basically the more kind of challenging and stressful things for the off kind of weekend, or the things that are not as stressful, not as challenging or impactful at the beginning of the week. So for example, beginning of the week, first lift, going to do a lot of explosive stuff because the athlete is in general just a little bit more fresh versus doing explosive stuff Saturday, day 6 of the training week, okay? But on the flip side, I'm going to do my hamstring and my hinging stuff at the end of the week because I don't want their hamstrings kind of beat up at the beginning of the week. So I'm trying to save the hamstring stress, the specific hamstring stress, for the end of the week, which ipso facto, then we'll do our squats on lift 1 and our hinges on day 2 at the end of the week. So again, working backwards, going from games to when the sessions happen to what are you doing within those sessions. Last, wrapping up, in general, everything I just said, just organized in this one slide. To maximize your in-season training, to keep athletes healthy, to keep athletes performing at a high level, and to maintain and even make gains in season. In-season training comes down to this. Work backwards from the game schedule because that is their priority. 2, organize your training week to make sure that you are hitting your speed at least once a week, your strength at least once a month, and then to organize your days to stack stress, but then also build recovery into your training week. So there you have it, 3 tips, hopefully not rocket science, but simple, actionable things to help you just reorganize kind of what you're doing, make sure you're checking off certain boxes, and happy training.